Greetings, everyone, and welcome December the 5th, 2025. This is the promised video about this change that we are seeing. The big story of the day, national security strategy of the United States of America. And I'm honored to do a joint stream video here with Professor Gerdes. This is well within his wheelhouse and expertise. So welcome, Prof.
Yeah, thanks. So if you want to understand why Trump is doing what he's doing, if you look through the lens of this new national security strategy, it all makes sense. Why is he just kind of what looks like caving to Putin? Well, he doesn't want to do anything like what we have done in the past. He wants to be in his own sandbox and let them play in their own sandbox over there and ignore what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. Like he wants to not be involved in it. Which is
Well,
strange since he said I could finish the war in 24 hours.
24 hours, 2 weeks, 100 days, it doesn't matter. But the bottom line is Donald Trump wants a deal he can announce. We witnessed that today by him receiving the first ever FIFA peace trophy and got the necklace around his neck.
Well, it's a medal.
Yeah, he got the first ever peace medal there. But that's how he operates. And he wants a big deal that he can announce on television for the world to see. But that is exactly the opposite of what Vladimir Putin and many in the East want. And this is bringing us to a place of like unbelievable what we're getting ready to share with you, at least in my opinion. Some of this is unbelievable. Really a review almost or a resurgence of the Monroe Doctrine. This could be the Monroe Doctrine 2025, and that focused on our hemisphere, not the rest of the world.
I would argue it's not unbelievable, but if you understand what we're about to talk about here, Trump will make complete sense.
There you go. So let's jump to it. I have a few of the bullet points of this, reviewed the entire document, and we're going to pull out some of the key talking points, and we'll get Prof's response on each of those. So we'll start with number one. The main interest of the United States, and this was in the document, is to end the military actions in Ukraine. I don't have a problem with that one. We need to end it the right way.
Well, he's not worried about ending it the right way. It's that we're involved at all when we shouldn't be involved in what's going on in Europe and Eurasia. Why are we involved in this to begin with? This isn't our thing. The way that he's seeing it is those countries in Europe, they should be involved in this and pulling their own weight, paying their fair share, instead of us being on the hook for it. That's the way that he's looking at it.
So this viewpoint of this document is actually dividing the world, which is Monroe Doctrine.
Yeah.
We're out of this. Is this the exit? Is this the exit?
This document is creating a international vacuum where American presence had been very weighty. And, well, we don't want to be the global policeman. Okay, well, who do you want to fill that vacuum? Do you want it to become China, or do you want, what do you want to be in its place? Because you're about to create a vacuum based on this doctrine that's not going to go well for the rest of the world. And then you're going to have the strongest in whatever region vying for power. So rather than tamping it down.
Could it be also that this, there's a lot of talk of retirements in the Republican Party as we look into 2026. We already know the Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I don't want to go too deep into American politics, but even here in this document, this is the closing of the opening statement. In everything we do, we're putting America first. This is our national security strategy to make America, great again, the most successful in the world. And then, of course, he signs it November 2025. So I wonder if there's just a little bit of, tending the home fires going on there. I don't know. Just
I don't think it has anything to do with this. This has been his guiding kind of concepts all the way through. I think this is a short-sighted look. Reagan was speaking at in Normandy at an anniversary of the D-Day invasion and was saying, like, look, we learned a hard lesson. We can't be uninvolved in what's going on. And this is the way that conservatives have traditionally thought. And Trump is upending that, like he's upending a lot of other things within the Republican Party. So we're going to have a civil war within the Republican Party on the other side of Trump. But
okay.
Yeah.
Let's look at some of these points then. Number two here, I had it number one there. Number two, restoring strategic stability with Russia. as one of the main foreign policy priorities in Europe. It's in the document.
Yeah. It looks, and there's other language that talks about how we're not going to worry about trying to convince other countries to, be democracies or be something other than what they are. We're not going to try to do that. Like where George W. Bush was talking about like spreading democracy throughout the world. This is a repudiation of Bush's way of doing it. Let's say that Bush went too far. This is the pendulum swinging way back the other direction, and it's a very bad thing. So yeah, he wants to restore, and it doesn't matter if it's Russia or whatever the monster is that's oppressing their own people. That's okay. Let's do business. That's the way that this
Interesting.
is.
Okay, when you see that restoring that strategic stability, restoring the relationships with Russia, it's interesting because today, quite a few charts and graphs that I follow came out. We had a confirmation that the sanctions on Lukoil were extended or the pressure relieved until April of 2026. Russia also released documents that where the sanctions have hit Rosneft and Lukoil, other companies within Russia have picked up that excess, and still their output to the world is the same with or without Lukoil and Rosneft. In addition to that, Ukraine released its document today about support of international countries helping Ukraine in this war against Russia. And over the last couple of months, the United States is basically at zero. And Europe tugging the war. So this is what we're talking about here. To me, it's the off ramp that leads us
It's
to this
pretty
point.
terrible. But going to your last point, even if oil is still getting out, if you crush Rosneft and Lukoil, you've done some damage to the economy. Think about in the United States, if you crush Microsoft and Google, like, okay, we'd use other things, but wow, that would be significantly damaging to the economy, right? So
Is it fair
that
though? Is it fair though to say Microsoft and Google
no,
versus
I'm saying these are some of the largest in ours, as opposed to Rosneft being one of the largest in theirs. I think, I mean, that's okay.
but
Well, you want to
you're
use
talking
Exxon or ExxonMobil or something? I mean,
yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't
I
matter
do.
what it is.
I
It's
do.
just one of the largest oil, like Rosneft particularly is the largest. And so, I mean, and oil is a third of the oil and gas or a third of the budget. So yes, it is fair. It's a big hit. So that's why I was trying to compare it. I mean, not
Mhm.
all analogies are perfect, but
Yeah. I I just personally don't see the economic implosion of Russia happening tomorrow, no matter what
oh, no, no,
anybody
no,
does.
neither do I. I
Okay,
see it being injured, systematically injured in
sure.
various ways, but
But
it's just nobody said it's going to fall apart tomorrow.
Putin off in India for the last couple of days, making sure that he's putting band-aids on all of that and building new strategic partnerships and relationships, and quite a few deals signed today. I've covered that already.
Yep.
So anyway, let's move to this one. NATO to stop being seen as a constantly expanding alliance. I want to make one statement and then let you go on it. Ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen, this is a Kremlin talking point that has been repeated for the last
Yeah.
10 years daily. There you go.
So what was wrong about the 1960s and 70s was the containment strategy didn't go far enough. Reagan actually reversed it for the first time with Grenada and was talking about pushing back. Containment was the strategy. We're now talking about containing NATO. Like, how bizarre is this? This is like, it's mind numbing how wrong headed this strategy is in the name of America first.
It's unbelievable. And we need to remind folks there was a good conversation happening in my Discord, and people were just asking open ended questions. Greg, do you think NATO would ever attack Russia? The answer to that, and others were mentioning it, NATO is a defensive organization. It is not a nation or a group of nations, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, that goes out waging war. It is a defensive nation or a defensive
I would go
barrier.
I'd go even further. If you're in NATO, you're even less likely to attack Russia because other NATO countries are going to want to restrain you from dragging them into a war with Russia,
100%
right?
agree.
So
100% agree. But now we literally today, right here in this document, the national security strategy of the United States of America with the presidential seal signed by the President of the United States, have officially stated to the world that NATO needs to stop being seen as a constantly expanding alliance. It's
I
absolutely unbelievable for me. 4, Europe needs to take responsibility for their own defense.
Yeah, this is fair, but creating a vacuum in the process is a bad idea. So, sure, NATO, Europe needs to step up and be responsible primarily for its own backyard, with maybe the U.S. as a backstop if something went south. But Europe has relied too much on the United States. But this again, the pendulum swinging way too far the other
Yes.
direction, and that's the problem.
My concern, and I agree with you there, and I think European nations as a whole and Europeans that are watching our videos agree with that. You know, it's
Yeah,
we talk about it all the time. That's a logical statement. But if we burn the bridges of our allies and burn the
yeah,
bridges
this that's a bad idea.
of our friendships with our European neighbors, it's the world of air travel. Our European neighbors and ours, you're there. I mean, this is not an
Yeah, no, no, absolutely. That's a stupid thing to do. Now, this is because we no longer feel that we can be everywhere at the same time. Our previous doctrinal statement in 2022 said, "Look, we're prepared for one war in one theater." That's it, and that's
Mhm,
what's driving this. And we believe, based on like Elbridge Colby's book, a strategy of denial, that China is the one theater that's most important and we should keep our eye on. And so that's part of what's driving this. So Trump wants to get himself out of this bit with Ukraine, this little nastiness over here with Ukraine and Russia. Like let's stop with that
mhm.
and focus on things we should focus on, like our own hemisphere, and if necessary, maybe China.
It's exactly what this document says. I mean, in a
Yep.
nutshell, guys, at the 11-minute mark, this is exactly what that document says. Let's go to number 6. The United States administration is in conflict with European officials, many of whom trample democratic norms. This is in the document. This,
So the
go ahead.
view from those that are writing this document is that Europe is like the Democrats and the American Democrats.
That's
That's the
exactly how
way
this
that they're
document's
seeing
written.
this. So Republicans, like MAGA Republicans, I'm a Republican, but I'm the old school Reagan Republican who doesn't think like this at all, right? MAGA Republicans view Europe as, see, they're just a bunch of woke this and that
Mhm.
who are going to want to, you know, LGBTQ your kids and whatever, whatever kind of caricature that they can create about take away your free speech and that sort of thing. They're very suspect of transnational. Look, I'm suspect of transnational kind of organizations. I get it, but like, don't take away our free speech rights. So okay, I mean, there is a grain of truth into some of this with like transnational with the EU or
Mhm.
the UN or whatever other bodies telling you what you can and can't do. And they're jealous of those rights, but they take it again way too far. And they view Europe like they're the enemy, like Republicans view Democrats. Not Democrats view Republicans the same way. I get that, but yeah, that's what's happening here.
Let me give you an inside amplification of your description there, or maybe some understanding for folks. A lot of this that Professor Gerdes just explained actually is rooted in Kremlin propaganda. I watch it every day. It's pushing out every day how the Europeans are gone woke and they've went nuts and they are for everything that is woke and the maximum liberal viewpoints, no Christianity, no fair values, no family values, and now they're sucking America down that drain as well. And this is why those narratives aren't
And
coming from.
Russia's a Christian nation. Let's
That's
add that to
correct.
it
We
too.
are the greatest example. We're the greatest example. I translated today, guys, if you missed it in my first video, when Vladimir Putin went to Russia Today, India, and he inaugurated it. He initiated it. Margarita Semyon was there and says, "Okay, President Putin, will you start our broadcast?" And he says, "Let's go, guys." So Russia Today, India is rolling. They already have a massive facility, massive technology. There's a whole tour you can go see of it. It's just like he flipped the switch. And this is what he said, quote, Russia Today, India is very needed because it can touch so many people around the world with our pure view of
Truth.
global politics, our pure understanding of relationships in our country and around the world, unlike all the Western propaganda. That's
That's
exactly
right.
what
It's
he
going to be
said.
pure truth from them as opposed to what those Western states want their people to hear. It was like the weirdest inversion of the reality that
Yep. It
it's just
was
bizarre to
you had to
to
hear it, you
watch.
had to see it and hear it to believe it. Let's go to number 7 or 6 rather. The United States no longer views the Middle East as a dominant factor in its foreign policy. Your thought on that? And then I
I
have
mean,
I have a thought on that.
go ahead. You go
Well,
with your thought.
the United States, the Trump administration specifically, been receiving a lot of heat globally as well as from inside the United States on how Donald Trump is nothing but a Netanyahu puppet, for example, or and how much Israel is connected and all the conspiracy theories, all of that interaction with Israel and Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran, the Qatari jet, you name it, whatever. Take the list as long as you want to make it. Now we're saying, listen, yeah. We care about the Middle East, but it's not the dominant factor in our foreign policy anymore.
This is the
We
least
are.
problematic part of the whole document to me.
Agreed. Agreed. 7. The Indo Pacific region will be one of the key geopolitical economic battlegrounds in this century.
Yeah. So I just finished reading Elbridge Colby's Strategy of Denial, and that's a claim he makes again and again and again. He asserts it without actually proving why that's the case. But I mean, the book was good. I hated giving money to Colby for for the book, but it was well written, and that's it. That's his claim, and that's where we've been focused for the last 3 years, and that's where we're going to be focused, other than our own hemisphere.
Well, let's take the next 2 or 3 minutes and wind this down. We'll go to the last key topic that's in the document. And guys, it's public. It's just Google it. You can come up and you can read the whole thing for yourself. But we've covered the majority of the topics in here, the main bullet points. And you mentioned earlier, Prof, that this is really moving us, and I called it the Monroe Doctrine 2025, focused on our hemisphere.
Yeah.
And you also made reference to the fact that we have to focus on one theater for battle. And that will not be
Mhm.
Europe. It will not be Ukraine. It will not even be Russia or the Middle East. It's going to end up being China. And that is actually addressed here. The United States should focus on trade with China only on non strategic goods. Try to keep some type of relationship there, but we see that China is ultimately going to be our biggest issue and threat.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so it's like the Nord Stream 2 pipeline with Europe. You don't want to be dependent on China. If you got into a hot war with China and you needed the strategic goods, okay, I can see that. It goes too far again, though, because now we're talking a lot of it that you're not covering is talking about things like tariffs and
Hmm.
why that's so good for us and for the American worker and that sort of thing. I think that's silly. I mean, with the direction that they're going with that is just it's unjustified. But that's where they are, and they look at trade wars as a good thing that is going to support the American worker, and we don't want to be dependent on China. Okay, not being dependent on China, fine, but the way they're going about it is maybe not the best plan. Okay, if you want to defend your strategic supply chain, okay, that's perfectly fine, and have a carve out for your strategic supply chain of what you would need so that if you were in a dire strait, you still have what you need. But everything else, be a free trader. That's the most efficient way of going about doing things. So
Completely agree.
anyway,
And for you guys,
hey, here's what I want to leave people with. If you
do
read this,
go.
look for every word every time they say hemisphere or region, and you'll understand the document more fully because we're doubling down on our region to the exclusion of the rest of the world, no longer being America being the world's policeman. That's really the essence of this document. And
I will attach the link
if
to
you
this
understand that,
document. I will attach the link to this document in the description of the video. It's on the whitehouse.gov. You're looking at it here. Prof nailed it right there with what you need to look for. National security strategy. I showed you the intro letter, but even if we come to the table of contents, what is American strategy? How American strategy went astray? President Trump's necessary, welcome correction. What should the United States want? And then it goes down. to the principles, the strategy, priorities, and then you called it the regions, the Western, Asia, Europe, Middle East, Africa. And it's a fairly significant document here that is worth your read, guys. But we've given you the basic overview of it in the last 20 minutes. So,
And if you understand how this has reprioritized things, you understand why Trump really doesn't care about Ukraine, because it's really not a core national interest as this document defines it. It really isn't, which is a terribly dangerous place to be. So I know some people are like, "Oh no, we don't want Trump to stop and just get out of being." Actually, if Trump stopped negotiating, it might be better.
yeah.
I mean, it might just be a better thing. Like, I don't want that to be the case where Trump stops supporting Ukraine, but effectively he has. But if he just stopped trying to be a deal maker and let the Europeans do the deal with the Ukrainians, it would be far, far better for the rest of the world, I think.
The problem, and we don't want to make this any longer, but when you have Kirill Dmitriev and Dmitry Medvedev just blowing up Twitter and other social media that says everything President Trump is doing is proper, take the Europeans off the table. They don't have a seat at this table, is what they were just saying in the last 24 hours. So let's us keep dealing here, and that's what Russia wants. Now we see
Yeah.
this document. General Sierski today, just a couple of hours ago, did an interview with Sky News. He came out and he says, listen, we're not giving up our territory. Our soldiers have
Mhm.
fought and they have died. We are not giving up our territory, full stop. So when you understand that, and maybe that is now getting through, that's the impasse, the territory, even as the U.S. has said, and they're recognizing it. And I personally feel that unfortunately the United States is going to take an off ramp, and this is just a part of the process. So we'll see. Thank
Yeah,
you,
we'll see
Prof.
how it all plays out.
All right, guys. Hopefully this helps you understand this kind of complicated document here, and thankful to Prof and his whole community there. Thank you for helping my community understand it, and whatever I could help your community understand, I'm grateful to help as always. So you guys be
And if
blessed.
you're
And
not familiar with Greg Terry's experience and you're watching from my channel, go over there and see what Greg puts out there. He does a great job keeping you posted about everything every day.
and vice versa for Prof Gerdes, especially if you want to go clinical. That's the word he teaches me all the time. So thank you guys. Be blessed.